What's up, everybody? How you feel? Welcome to another episode of Dope Chats with Stretch. Yours truly, Stretch, your 6'6" phenomenon. Thank you for hanging out with me. Merry Christmas to all of you out there who had a wonderful time spending it with your family and friends and all that good stuff. And it's 2023. It's the end. It's the end. The last days of 2023, but it does not mean it's going to be the end for you, my friend, because tonight we're going to have a great conversation as we talk about dating, especially dating for Black folks over the age of 40. All right. So, if you know one thing about me, man, I am a connoisseur of just love and a romantic at heart. Of course, you already know my background rather as a radio personality and hosting the Love Zone in Baltimore, to the Quiet Storm in DC, and to an author of writing this here book called Last Request. It's a very good romance novel, so get it in while you can. All right. But people are still yearning, you know what I'm saying? Like they once sang, for some good old LOVE. And tonight I have two wonderful ladies who are going to come here and just chop it up with me so we can get you all ready and filled with vigor as you get out there and get in these dating streets. So coming to the stage first is a good friend of mine. She is a dating coach, matchmaker here in the DMV. Known her for some years. She even tried to hook a brother up, you know what I'm saying? But we want to talk about that. But she is super dope. Please show your love right now for my girl, Miss G Sanders, to the building. G, what's up, baby?
What's up? Hey, happy.
Yes. Yes. And coming to the stage next is a young lady who I've seen online. She's super dope, super talented. I've even participated on one of her hip hop trivia game nights, and she's always going live on Facebook or Instagram with some really dope topics to help enlighten women and just talk about relationships and love and all that good stuff like that. And I thought it would be, super dope to have her on tonight. So please show your love for Miss Michelle Stacey, everybody. Michelle Stacey, Becky Brown girl in the building. Yes. What's up, ladies? How you guys doing?
Good.
Well, Merry Christmas to you both. I'm hoping you all had some good times with your family and your friends, and all that good jazz. But tonight, this is a good topic, a topic that we talk about this, from time to time. It's just something that just sticks with my heart when it comes to dating, especially dating over the age of 40. I was reading this article in the Chicago Tribune. It was from 2018, and they were stating that the number of Black folks who are the number of married Black people has declined drastically. And this was from 2018. And so I tried to look up those numbers now to see what they were saying in 2023. And you'd be surprised, they're still dropping. So let's talk about just dating, and as far as Black folks to eventually, get to marriage if some people want to marry. But why is it so difficult for us to just, I don't know, find each other over the age of 40? I'll start with you, G.
And I think the part that also needs to be, like, when you hear about numbers dropping, I know in times when I've talked with my clients, of course, people will always go to statistics, social media, little blurbs and articles that talk about the decline of marriage, the decline more specifically of the Black marriage. But I think also what needs to kind of resonate to everyone, not everyone desires like long-term, lifelong marriage love. And so in that, you're having this kind of nouveau way of how people view romanticism, and particularly even in the Black community. So I think the numbers definitely have declined. I think as you become older, I am over 50, I'm proudly getting ready to turn 3, that you get more set in your ways. Thank you, Michelle. So you get more set in your ways. When I met my husband, and I was actually approaching 30, I was in my, 40, I was in my late 30s. And some of the things that really challenged us in our early stage of dating is that even in our late 30s, we were very set in our ways. Yeah. I remember I argued over placemats on the dining room table. And it was just like, and I was trying to put up some pictures that for my single home. And he was like, no, that don't really work here. But so I just think as you get older, you get more settled. And also, not everyone is looking for a lifelong love. I think more people are looking for a love of their own and kind of writing the rules of how they want that love to be.
All right, cool. Thank you. So, Becky Brown, girl, Michelle, what are your thoughts in regards to what we were just talking about? Like, why do you find it that you think it's difficult for some of us to find that person over the age of 40?
I think she nailed it. There's a few things. I mean, for sure, being set in your ways. So I think people are less flexible in, relaxing certain standards that they may have. And you often hear, particularly for women, because we do outnumber, someone who wants to marry, or as a Black woman who, would potentially want to marry a Black man, we outnumber them. So off the top, that does make it more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
But because men know that they have that, the numbers in their favor, they tend to, kind of threaten or suggest that, women are desperate at a certain point. And so, they need to lower their standards and lower their expectations, and basically kind of take what they can get over a certain age. And I find, because a lot of, Black women are more financially independent and, successful professionally, that they may not be as willing to settle for, certain, for certain things from that point of view.
Right.
And so they may, their standards may appear too much or too high, based on, I guess, where they are on the scale of desirability. And desirability meaning, because men don't necessarily look at women from a financial perspective, they're looking at, her youth and her beauty and her femininity and, her agreeableness and her cooperativeness and her submission. So, but I'm sorry, what was that?
And I was going to say, in her support, a lot of times we end up turning into, and again, I'm not saying I'm against this, because I still definitely give my man his plate. I definitely play, to a certain degree, a little bit of his secretary every now and then. But I do, a lot of times, those are the roles that sometimes people think are really gone, those traditional roles.
Right.
Roles are still in place, because I know I surely don't want to take out trash. And I'm still, I change my own oil. So I think, Michelle, equally, she nailed it as well. I think that men are looking for certain things, and as you get older, you think those traditional things are on, but they're still there. And so whether or not you can align on those roles as you get older, it just becomes a little bit more challenged, because I was single longer than I've been in a relationship. So I did have to figure out a whole lot by myself as my own head of household. So Michelle nailed it. To submit to my husband being head of household, that took some work.
So let's talk about from the dating standpoint. So as I'm 48. I'll be 48. Actually, I'll be 48 in February, right? And so, yeah, man. But I've noticed that you kind of hit. I've been single for some time, right? I've dated few here, there, whatever the case may be, but not to the point where I was like, okay, this is my person. Where I thought some of them were my person, and then maybe I messed up a few. Don't get me wrong, I definitely messed up a few, but I just find it difficult now, being almost 50, as compared to when I was in my 20s and 30s, which I enjoyed dating, but I enjoyed dating, not with the sense of exclusivity, more, from a committed standpoint. It's just like I just enjoy just kicking it, right? But there comes a time when just kicking it gets old, and then you find yourself, quite like me, kind of like, oh, now I'm ready to do something, but that window of opportunity has definitely shrunk. What is it that can be, G, what are your thoughts on like what can be done to like find those people that necessarily want to be just like, do what you want to do as far as relationships are concerned, just outside of the norm of like, the dating apps. Because I just find like for being a Black person, those dating apps are, it's not, I don't know. It's just like, it's kind of like an odd way of dating in a sense, because I think we date differently outside of our, counterparts.
Well, I think you also kind of combining what Michelle said and what you just said about as become, older, more mature, and you start kind of rethinking like, how do you want your romantic love?
Right.
I have to consider the fact that although, yes, Michelle, those stats are spot on, there's just more women on this earth. So when you just look at it and align yourself with heterosexual relationships, Black, man and woman relationships, having shared values in a relationship, it kind of then becomes like your preferences do matter. So for instance, if you want someone 6 feet, we already know you got that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the reality of it is, it's just like women may want a man who's 6 feet, then a man wants someone like Michelle is giving me boom ba. She's giving me good faith. Me, you know, she, this, if she was my client, this would be like, up, let me take this picture right now. Let me put it right here because right now. And so when you both have a little bit of that je ne sais quoi, that's the preference.
Right.
There's what men need to kind of accept as you get older. You may have more options in regards to just gender, but the reality of it is you got a whole bunch of broken Bettys out here. There's a whole lot of women who are struggling with their emotional, mental, financial. So just because you got more options, you are kind of troving through rocks to find your diamonds.
Yeah, emotional damage. It's crazy.
Oh yeah,
What you got, Michelle?
Oh yeah.
So if I could, I'm sorry, no, because I think that G was still talking.
No, I was just saying, men, you may have more options, but all the things I just listed, when you look at value alignment and you look at romantic goal alignment, when you start looking at preferences, just recognize just because you have more options doesn't make you in a better position than the women.
Mm.
I think just kind of, one thing that people don't take into consideration is, we're all here for a finite time period, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your mortality is much more glaring the older that you get. And so, in your 20s and 30s and, and maybe even into your early 40s, if you've never been married or in a long-term relationship like that, then you might perceive yourself to have a lot of time, but none of us really knows how much time we actually have.
That's
so
true.
The older you get, the more you realize if that's a priority to you, like you have to be very intentional with how you spend your time and with whom you spend your time. And that's the space I'm in at this point. Like I realize that I've allowed myself to have my time wasted. And I've also wasted my time, dealing with people who may have either shown me through their actions that they weren't really that serious,
Mm-hmm.
or were saying one thing and doing another, showing me that they weren't serious. So at this point and moving forward, I'm, right up front, and it may turn some off. I don't really care. I'm going to be very explicit about like, this is what I'm looking for. So I know sometimes men will say things, with a particular goal in mind, which is usually to get the draws. But I'm like, look, whatever it is that you want, just tell me up front. So we can establish if we're on the same page or not. Are you looking for, are you here for a good time, not a long time? And then also, I think sometimes when you might be looking for something more serious, but you might find in getting to know someone that maybe that person isn't the person that you want to have something serious with. So It's not always necessarily that they're playing games, but just being very explicit about what it is that you desire up front,
mm-hmm.
I think is really important at this point. So neither person's wasting their time.
That's a good point. I mean, I'm reading another, study, and I try to read these studies because I want to get some perspective on some things. And they were stating that for the majority of folks, say white folks, other races, I should say, when it comes to dating with them, they can go 3-6 months and be like, boom, I'm gonna marry that person, right? But it says for us, as I was doing a little bit more research on the U.S. Census Bureau, it's a little different from us because we could go years with being with a person 10 years. And I know we probably got, friends who've been in relationship with someone, and that person or the man never even asked the woman to marry him or marry her rather. And what we're content with just being in that situationship, more or less. Like, gee, how can we get out of that sense of thinking when it comes to the matter of heart? Because just like Michelle said, we only have a certain amount of time here. I mean, I don't know, is that deemed sort of healthy for a relationship to just be doing something of that nature without really kind of like putting a stamp on it?
Again, it's all according to your romantic goal. And I think Michelle even bringing up, first of all, just the fact that we're talking, like you said, over 40 dating. Michelle talking about the mortality, like for those of us in our 30s, 40s, and 50s, Michelle nailed it in regards to like what's happening across the country, particularly in the Black community. We are seeing our Generation Xers dropping like flies.
Mm-hmm.
And so, although you want to live your life always thinking about the end, I think you definitely want to look at your time on this earth as to really kind of living your life to your full, which may not be my fullest.
Right.
And that goes even with your romantic goal. So there are people who would say, oh, if you're renting an apartment, you're wasting your money. Not if you got a concierge, you don't want any responsibilities, you love to travel and move around. You're like, space, a high rise, I got a gym, I got a rooftop, I don't have to fix anything. That's your life and your experience. Who am I to judge because you're spending your money the way you want to? I think people have to start looking at your romantic goals the same way. You need to stop looking over to the left and the right, or people on social media and all the pretty pictures, and really figure out what is your goal. And if it is a situation, then you need to be upfront, like Jill said.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not waste each other's time. So if you do just want sex up front, I think a lot of times men, particularly Black men, I only worked as a matchmaker. I only worked in the Black community. That was my niche. That's where I was. That's what I
Right.
know I am. But I think a lot of times we as Black women are given the credit of being the strongest beings on this earth. But for some reason, men tend to think that we can't handle being told the truth. So if you don't like my hair, if you don't like my body type, or if you just want to have sex and hook up, there's a way to say that in a respectful way to allow me to make a decision. I just think that people need to be forthcoming after you get a certain age. I think it's immature romantically to not speak what you want, whether you're a man or a woman, and be able to be upfront about what your goal is to see if it aligns with the person.
That's a good point. And I think when it comes down to that too, you got some folks like, certain men, we're afraid to even have that to broach that conversation because some men are afraid of the response that'll come from it. We always think that you guys are going to just be super emotional and just be like boom, 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 and maybe ready to cut somebody, do whatever the case may be. But it's like, but you'll never know unless you really like have the conversation because and I don't get me wrong, I definitely am flawed in that situation myself, and in my 20s and 30s, like I would kind of like dance around the subject, just like if I leave a little hint, maybe they'll pick up, or instead of just actually being forthright. I didn't really pick that stuff up until, maybe like 3-4 years ago, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying?
Talking about giving some good, healthy, constructive feedback. Because going back to your point, I get why men would be concerned. They don't want their windows bust out or their tires slashed. Because I'm not by no stretch. I'm not saying that's not going to happen.
Right.
It goes back to recognizing you make all these pretty options, but a lot of them could be broken inside. So you should also be careful on who you share your bed with and who could be attaching to you some negative energy you don't want in your life. And so, yeah, it would be harder to give them feedback to say, like, see a future after you done smashed them, for several times. And now they're like really attached to you, but you don't want no parts. You have to be a little bit more discerning on who you give your body. And one other point I want to make too about feedback, women also, particularly Black women, I'll say also, because that's my niche, but I think women in general, we don't give a lot of feedback about men and their sexuality. So there's a lot of people walking this earth not with good, healthy, constructive feedback. So for instance, men may not say to a woman, I don't want a commitment. Sorry, it's not you, or I don't like your body type. You feel really, feel comfortable with that. Women are having sex with men that are terrible in bed, and they're not giving feedback, it's going away. So there's a lot of men walking this earth thinking that they are, the king in the bed, like a twin size.
Not a twin size. That's funny. You want to jump on that, Michelle?
I think we both I just want to add, I think that we have to be receptive to honesty on both sides. And yeah, oh my God, these earrings, I can't.
Yeah, bamboo earrings, at least 2 pair.
So honesty, the thing is, people will say that they want honesty, but then when they get it,
right,
they don't always receive it well. It's true. It's not easy. Like, I will tell you all day, I do not want to be lied to. But to G's point, it's the way you communicate something. That doesn't mean my feelings might not be hurt by what you say, but if you say it with no finesse, no tact, and you're rude, people think that being truthful always means that it has to come across like blunt and rude, and just figure out how you can say it in a considerate way. I am challenged with that as well, because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I don't want to hurt a man's ego. But I don't want to be dishonest either. So if I can see that a situation is not for me, for whatever reason, me and the guy might not really be a good fit for one another. I might just say something like, I think I want to take a break from dating now, or I don't know, I'm gonna find a way to try to say it. But I think as long as you're honest up front, then anything after that is the choice of the other person. So they can get mad, they can be in their feelings, or whatever, but you told the truth up front. And however they feel after that is on them, it's not on you. If you're misleading somebody, then that's a different story.
Right.
Yeah. I believe in what's called love karma. So I think for men and for women, myself included, when I was dating, a part of even how I came into this field was and I know, Stress, this, I said this probably 1,000 times. I was doing a sociological project. I was dating, I was single myself, a single mother to boot, single Black mother to boot. And I was struggling in my dating just like everyone else. I spoke to my professor. We figured out a good project, kind of medium, and how to kind of create it. At the time, this is when online dating was just taking off. So this is like early 2000s for Black people. So if you can imagine, I'm talking about Black Planet / Black People Meet, and maybe a little dash MySpace. And I am the non-techie person. Well, I couldn't even get on here tonight because I got an old laptop, and I don't have all the bells and whistles. I'm not a gadget person. At the time, social media said go online. I felt like, I'm gonna be in somebody's trunk. But this project. So the project said meet as many men as you can on this platform, Black People Meet at the time.
Right.
And try to see how you can get them to come out the computer. So a whole bunch of stuff happened, but in general, I met 75 men in 45 days.
Damn.
Oh, wow.
And but a part of the criteria was they had to give me feedback if they didn't contact me back.
Okay.
And it was like upfront what I was doing. And so there was some that I dated, some that I slept with, some that I had a good time with. And there was some who was really like, when they saw me, they were like, And I was like, well, wait. And I remember a beautiful black man, like tall like you, came in there, like he was dressed to the nines. I was in my curly weave and my Converse, and I could tell he was just like, like not. And
Damn.
so what you have to understand is exactly, there's a way to tell someone, but you also have to be ready to receive. So if you're going to be an effective dater, you have to know not only will you reject, but you will be rejected.
Right.
So it's about your feelings, because there's somebody out there that's looking at you that you're looking at. It's a whole cycle. So whoever don't call you back, there's somebody that you're not calling back. And when you get into the space of understanding that's how it goes, and that who I did not, who really wanted to be with me, while I'm looking at the man who didn't want to be with me, as if he doesn't matter, you start to realize how you get into a line. You don't just look at who you want to date, you look at who wants.
Man, let me tell you something, G. You just hit the nail on the head like 30 times, because I just, oh man, I just got hit with some emotions, man, because like I was in something like that, like, you know, try to give it all my best, right? But I was like, just someone there, but I just like, it felt cool and comfortable from the standpoint of like I could kick it from, you know, which is when we could be friends and things of that nature. But then, you know, sometimes you just can't. I realize like you can't do that with certain people, with some people, because they get attached, and thus, you know, they may not be on that same vibe that you got because they up here, and I'm still like right there. But you just hit it where you said like that karma goes around, because when you start reaching out or you try to distance yourself, and then you try to like vibe with somebody else, and then that shit hits again because you like, okay, I'm gonna go in with this one, but the other person isn't receptive to what you're trying to vibe out to them. So it's like, damn, karma's a bitch. And it truly is. And then another thing that you just talked about, and I was going to go to this because we were talking. I was going back to that same article. It was a Chicago Tribune article in 2018. They said there's three tactics that we should focus on as dating over the age of 40 and being Black. And you were just saying, looking for people who are looking for you. You know, put yourself in position with the people that you want to find, that you deem are, you know, like-minded or whatever the case may be, or similar interests. Another one was focus on core values that you share with an ideal partner. The third thing was just to be persistent. And like you just can't just, you know, give up. You know, you got to keep it going. Because like at the end of the day, dating is nothing more than collecting data on a person. It's a numbers game, right?
Oh, it's absolutely a numbers game. But also, if you're dating a family, you have to keep in mind, like, when you got your ideal job, you got your ideal car, or finish your education, what was the work that you went in? Wasn't there classes? Wasn't there assignments that you felt overwhelmed? Wasn't there financial woes? Did you have family struggles? I think what people have done with romantic love is kind of turned it into like some magic wand. The magic is in with you, person, but also romantic love is the only love you don't have control over. So you got to start with your self-love. You got to take care of yourself. You got to be in your best space. And yeah, physicality is a part of it. A lot of people don't want to talk about that. Like, oh, take me as I am. Like, if you don't like me, you know, the way I look. And it's like, well, why would you look a hot goddamn mess on your pictures? Your Michelle said it about femininity. Like, again, like a lot of traditional stuff is still there. Even if you are a tomboy, like, put some lip gloss on. Nobody said have a beat face. You ain't gotta have goddamn some hip hop heels. But most men still want, in a heterosexual relationship, they want some level of femininity. And the same thing for women. Like, I don't want to dress you all the time. At a certain age, like, if you don't know how to dress, like, get a stylist. Like, read a book. Like, look online. Don't come in here dressed like 1985 and it's, you know, 2023. Like, help yourself out. Don't just say take me as I am and I'm overweight and my stomach is busted and my face is all pimply. Like, go fix yourself up. Go to a doctor. And people don't want to accept that part of it. The reality of it is that you really have to like do your work, hang in there, but also recognize, again, stop looking at just the people that you're looking at. Look at also who's looking at you.
Yeah, surface things. You know, you get caught up in that surface stuff, and that surface shit will bite you right in your ass. Michelle, what you had something you want to jump on with?
Well, so just really quickly comment on what you just said, but also I had a question for G. So responding to the point on the surface shit, as you put it, beep that out. I think that's something that I've struggled with, because I feel like I understand that we are over a certain age. So I'm going to be 50 in March. And so,
Yeah.
so I am, I'm still like, to your point, G, I really do what I can to try to maintain myself physically and for myself, right? But also because, because I feel like I'm more confident, when I look the way I want to look. It's important for my health. It's important for a lot of reasons, right? So not just the superficial reasons, but similarly, I want somebody who cares about, being active and cares about their health. And somebody who's more active would probably tend to be in better physical condition. He does not have to be, all super muscular and, perfectly chiseled. I don't expect that. But when I look at him, I have to be physically attracted to him. And I've said to myself, are you prioritizing that still too much at this point? Because a lot of, people let themselves go at a certain point. And do you need to worry more about how the person is treating you? Because that's kind of the direction that I'm going in, versus, their appearance. But I'm like, I have to find something attractive about the person. I can't force that. I don't care how you treat me. If I'm not attracted to you, I just feel like it's not gonna work. But maybe I need to.
Nope.
No, maybe I don't. Okay.
You gotta have something that draws you in. A lot of times, I mean, there are the superficial things, and I always use myself for example, because I use it sometimes now because I don't have as many clients now. I had to take a step back, but I used to use a dating scale, and so a dating scale it's like a point system, and then you add up and you kind of look at where do you stand. Are you, you know, uh, are you cute average, pretty plus, are you average? And so all those things I used to give to my clients to get them an idea, like kind of where you stand in the marketability. So using myself, I'm cute average. So I don't wake up like this. I got to do all this to get myself together. But my husband isn't scared of me without all of this. Like my face isn't like, he's not repulsed by me, but I don't wake up like this. I have to work at it. But there's some people who really wake up in the morning and you would think angels would be like, damn, like
man,
with these features. And the same thing with your body. So, no, I'm not, that's what I'm saying, Michelle, you're giving me, no, like I am in my skin. My husband knows I'm in my skin. Like I'm not hiding that. I'm like, the Skims is going to keep this all in. It's going to keep it all together. And I think sometimes what people don't want to own is that I want to look good for myself. So whether my husband was looking or not, it's for me first.
Right.
But my husband to match my fly. And it's not about superficial. It's about, I still want to be drawn to you and you still want to be me. And I do think people are comfortable with saying, you can't accept me as I am, but also accepting you as you are, does that mean that you are unhealthy? And so it's very likely that you're not doing some form of health and well-being, fitness and good diet. This age, it's not about superficial. It's just, you're not taking care of yourself. And so, Michelle, you're a beautiful woman. I mean, everything about you from what I see again, you deserve someone who's going to make the same effort as you're doing for yourself.
Oh, sigh. Well, I have to talk to you when this is over. But I actually, and I'm sorry, Stretch, because I don't want to take over. I do have a question for G though.
Go ahead, do your thing.
At this point, what would you suggest is in terms of like good places to meet people? Because I've done online dating. I saw a TikTok recently where a woman was talking about going to, more professional conferences. Because I do attend, networking events for my day job. And so, you know, I'm going to make more of a concerted effort to do that as well. Not only in the state where I work, but, you know, maybe expand my reach a little bit so I'm not seeing some of the same
Yeah.
faces, right? Um, you know, but she said, like, you'd really be surprised. But I also encounter a lot of married men.
Mm.
Oh shit, the share thing, that's a whole other show. Like share time. People have definitely the share that's going viral. So
So what I would like to know, because my experience of dating apps, I talked on my last live about social media interactions versus reality, and not even from a dating perspective, just from you know, getting to know people through social media, and then when maybe you meet them in real life, how the vibe is different. It's just a different energy, even when with somebody that you may have established a rapport with, and why that is. But the same thing can be said of online dating. Um, I don't know if it's because people misrepresent themselves online.
yes.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
Again, it's a marketing. So the thing that people have to, yeah, I'm, you know, my thing for people is if you look at someone's picture and it's like it's not that good a picture, but it's like if it's average, then you might still want to move forward because you would love to be pleasantly surprised that that person looked better than their picture, or rather than be extremely disappointed because the picture was not really a representation because they had it all glossed up.
Right.
So also men oftentimes don't do dating coaches, matchmakers, particularly black men. They're not walking this earth like asking their boys like, what you think of this picture online? You think do I look manly? You know, respectable? They're not, do I look gay? Like what they're not all day. What you think, girl? I look, you know, what have you if you got a good close knit circle. So give men some grace because they struggling out here too in regards to how to do these profiles. But you got to be on in some capacity. I love what you said, Michelle. People think it's only the dating app. No, like you're like you said, like you're doing things already for your own business and capitalizing off of it. And so that's what also makes organic sense. So you're showing up into the social media space for yourself and your career, and you're already going to draw a certain level of attention. But you also then have to be on certain level of dating apps or a dating site, but comprehensively, the best of both worlds for an effective dater, you got to tackle everything, which would include the business conferences. But my mentor in this space, I always give credit to Paul Brunson. He used to always tell me the best place that a single woman should go to is where men are. And he was like the high-end hotel bar lounges, the steakhouses, the cigar lounges. And so you got where men are, not so much where it's social, because there's a lot of social places that have a whole lot of women. But you gotta go to where men are. And again, like the low key high end lounges and hotels, again, the steakhouses, you know, and all cigar lounges. That would be organic. And then the last thing I would always say, if you're really going hard effectively, you got to be willing to then tap into your network and say to your network, as opposed to hiring somebody, start your own network and put it out there and show some level of vulnerability. If you know someone who you think might be good for me, could you make an introduction? And that's something that a lot of times we don't tap into our own network because it's a vulnerability. It's like telling someone like, I'm really struggling with money. Could you slide me money? And it's like, but you know, I always say if $20 is going to change your life, then you were like already down. So for the most part, if you're gonna ask money, like it's usually like 100 or more, and it probably could really impact you maybe for a week. And that's the same thing with romantic love. If you're ready to go all in, you're doing the online, you're doing the organic online, you're doing organically, like just walking this earth, just being your best self and being and looking at always at your phone. But then you also have to tap into your own network and show vulnerability and ask for an intro.
Yeah, you hit it on the
I'm
nail
taking
because
mental notes.
you know I'm a cigar guy, so I'm always at the cigar lounge, and I'm telling you, it'd be so many women up in the cigar lounges, and most of them don't even smoke cigars, but they go because they want to interact, and then they, it's how a lot of dialogue starts. So now some of them, no, never mind. Never mind.
Now, see, but are the men like, I mean, if the women aren't smoking cigars and they have to know that they're in there to meet them, and now if that's the cheat code, then it's gonna, turn into a bunch of women.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes but that's what I'm saying, because therefore you may have, but some other ladies do. Don't get me wrong, a lot of ladies now, especially a lot of ladies I know, are very much into cigars, and so they come in and they know their stuff. They know more stuff than half those dudes up in there. But for them, it's just a place where they're looking to make connections with other people, and then you have like these groups where people get together and smoke cigars, drink wine, or they all that good stuff like that. So I mean, it works. I say, I put it like that. It works, but I think like G said, just going to like the higher end spots, or the places that that's where you're going to hopefully run into some good quality cats, not like the hole in the wall spots, because then that's where you're going to run into them dudes that like to holler at you because they married. You know what I mean?
Hold on. Are you trying to tell me that at the higher end spots they not married? Because
Well, no, you might get some of them too. I ain't I'm not telling no. You already know.
Yeah, like you have to use your discernment, and unfortunately there are some people who are open to that. That's their journey, that's their world. But for those who want a love of their own, then it's also keeping in mind that if you've tried a place 2 or 3 times, or if it's a place that you frequent, you should try something new. You definitely don't. And the same thing with online. If you've been on one site for a while, shut it down, go to another one. And some people will say, well, I see my picture. That's the point. You want to be seen.
Right.
So who cares? Because whoever's looking at you, they're on here too. A lot of people are like, I don't want people to see me. If they're on here, that's another. If you're on here, then you are on here too. I can see you too.
So let's talk about that then, G, because as we close out 2023 and we get ready to go into 2024, did we lose Michelle? I think we lost Michelle. No, she's back.
Sorry, I'm back.
But let me go. Oh, she'll pop back up again.
Yeah.
So as we close out 2023 and we get ready to go into 2024, what are some of the some new things that we can do as Black folk over the age of 40 to get our dating lives full of zest again? Like what are some of the new things that we could think of focusing on?
And I'm not saying this because I'm soliciting, because do online dating online coaching, that's a whole thing. So there's organic date coaches, and then there's online date coaches. And so I often outsource the online, because that's very overwhelming. The same way how clients or singles feel like going through these profiles. When you hire an date coach, they are going through all the profiles. It is really like heavy duty work. But I would suggest that people look at whatever you've been doing. If you feel like you tapped into your circle, tapped into your network, you feel like you've gotten some honest advice, because I always think first, tap into your network first, not only for a recommendation or referral or an intro, but for some honest feedback. Because again, I think we were talking about before, people are not getting feedback. So start with your own inner circle: men, women, family, parents, brothers, sisters, siblings, besties, boys. Ask for some honest feedback. If you're open to get the honest feedback from your inner circle, then you're more likely to kind of be able to arm yourself up to be ready to date and go through the process of dating effectively, which includes rejection. If you've done that, then the next step, that if comfortable to do so, because not getting into any pockets, I would suggest hiring a date coach, whether an online one or an organic one. If it's just like a therapist on a different level, because they're not necessarily degreed, like diagnose you and give you medicine. But oftentimes when I tell people I'm diagnosed with dating, I'm doing this whole full write-up. Like, I'm looking at you, I'm looking at your pictures, I'm looking at your social media. If allowed, some people don't do it, but I always tell them, if you don't let me talk to your friends or your family, I don't get a full picture of who you are, because that's the difference between a coach as opposed to a therapist. I need to know how you walk this earth as a single. So the idea is to get as much as you can, and then whether from your inner circle, then from a professional. And then the next thing is to really dive in. Is your romantic? What is your goal? Like I said, not everybody wants to be married. Not everybody wants, like, one person, but maybe you want, you know, then, and you want that, but you want the option to kind of keep your door open. There's ways to, like, not just be in a relationship, but it's more so like dating effectively. And I usually say, if you can pick 3 to 5 people and be honest with them in your journey, usually you have a better odds of, as opposed to like spending time, back to Michelle's point about really thinking about time as money and time as a value, really looking at it to tell people up front, I am dating journey. I am seeing some, I'm just letting you know now. So really identifying, 3 to 5 people, and really exploring, being very focused, and really taking time to really kind of understand the relationship as to conversation, spending time together, low key, like little travel opportunities. You learn a lot about somebody when you travel with them. And so always like, even if it's a short trip, just to go somewhere, it takes a couple of hours, even if you're just staying for the day. The whole logistics of like planning a day travel will give you a lot of insight about someone. But I highly suggest that, again, like, you really dive deep. What is your romantic goal? And also making sure you before you go out, because a lot of times not really investing in themselves and really figuring out, I want to be in love, I want to have a relationship. But again, everybody's goal is not marriage. So you really
Yeah.
need to, what do you want for you, and align yourself in regards to like how you date effectively with all the other things I said.
All right, no doubt. Thank you, G. No doubt. You are listening and watching Dope Chats with Stretch. Yours truly, Stretch, here with my guest, Michelle Stacey, aka Becky Brown Girl, and of course, dating coach and matchmaker extraordinaire, G Sanders. So we're getting ready to close this out, but before we do, what are, and this question is for you, Michelle, what are some of the things that you're looking for as you venture into these dating streets for 2024?
Oh no. Well, for one thing, as I said, somebody who's honest, and intentional, not looking to sort of go with the flow and waste my time, or waste our time,
Yeah.
right? Um, um, I think intentionality more than anything, and somebody who's a man of his word, which kind of goes hand in hand with the being honest, because a lot of men, again, will sort of sell you a dream. I've been single now since like last year. So I've dated a few different types of men, and I've learned a lot during this time frame of being single about what I do and don't like.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said, mainly somebody who's honest, somebody who's intentional, somebody who does what they say they're going to do. Somebody who's thoughtful and considerate, and who has our respective goals, dating goals, are in alignment. I thought I knew what I wanted when I first started dating again, but it has evolved over time.
Yeah.
And because I will admittedly, say I've gotten discouraged by some of my experiences, I said, you know what, I should take a break, because I don't want to go into these dating streets with a negative perspective, projecting that onto, to the next person, assuming that they're going to do what somebody else did. I also go to therapy. I would like to add. So I kind of, share a lot of um, those experiences with her. So she gives me a lot of good advice that I can apply, not just in a relationship setting, but just in life in general. So,
Mhm. No,
um,
dope.
so yeah, that's where I'm at with it for the 2-4.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I completely concur with you on that one. I was just recently seeing, something G and Michelle like one. I think it was on Instagram with Baller Alert, right? And they were talking about how I believe, Tamar Braxton now is engaged to the dude that did the thing, and they broke up, and then they back together again, you know,
Yeah.
and I find that, like, I'm not in her household or whatever like that. If that's the person that she wants to be with, so be it. But I think going forward, being intentional when it comes to dating, and not just being with somebody for the sake of being with somebody because you don't want to be alone, right? I yeah, that I think that's what we have to stop doing. And how can you trust a man that still look like he washes his hair with baby shampoo? You see that little swoop thing right there? You can't do
I don't
that.
think it's too many brothers that can do a swoop.
Yeah,
So
I mean, when I
I'm
grow
good.
my hair out, I got the little swoop. You know what I'm saying? No, but no, it's the thing. It's like, I get it. Where we don't want to find ourselves by ourselves, but I'd rather be by myself if that saves my heart from being with something that I know ain't really right for me. I guess, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, the holidays can be hard, and
Yeah,
so holidays and New Year's, people are, not necessarily New Year's goals or resolutions, but again, everyone is impacted culturally about how the holidays can impact you, and seeing so many people in romantic love or in family love, or so people are kind of like looking to say, like, what is my new year going to bring? I just There's always great optimism when you come into this, understanding yourself first.
yeah,
Before even moving into any direction, somebody with a swoop, somebody, with a six pack, or somebody with, a little boom, bah, just sure that you understand, what are you coming into this romantic love world?
yeah.
What and what do you need? Also, what do you want?
Now, do you think it's cool to? And again, don't get me. I think that list thingamajiggy is blah. I got a story about that when I went on a date with a woman years ago, and she pulled out a list. I was like, oh god. But I think where it's not even for a list of do's, don'ts, whatever, but it's more so like actions that you want, that you write or make a thing for yourself, that you can kind of go back and revisit and be like, okay, well, I desire a mate that, boom, 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 or, I'm looking for someone who's, empathetic, you know what I'm saying? Someone who's, shows compassion or things of that nature. And you can kind of like revisit that list, and, as you meeting these individuals that you go on dates with, you can kind of like look at and be like, okay, I got 10 things and this person only has 2. Now, that, not to say that they're not a good fit for you, but that's just something that you want to be concerned about, because you're looking to at least have more than maybe half of some of those things there. I mean, I don't know. What's your thoughts?
Your list should comprise, again, of things that are your values, which are like your rules. And so you've both said that. So I heard Michelle say, like, she wants someone, well, both of you said intentional, and you also, but Michelle was really like focused on honesty. But also, there is a category of value that has health and well-being. Taking care of yourself is a value, is not just something that is superficial. So the idea is that a lot of people are uncomfortable with lists, again, going into a new year. But I think what you need to take your romantic thoughts into the idea of, just like how you journal. To your point, like, people sometimes need to look back and revisit, like, what did I write down? And so 6 months from now, how did I end up with this person? They
Mhm.
don't anything that I wrote down for myself. So it's not going into the list and kind of marking people off, kind of being negative. It's also just your rules, your values that you want to hold on to. So whether it's health and fitness, whether it's being honest, whether it's being intentional, whether it's being careered, whether it's being ambitious, whether it's being family oriented, whether it is, loving the earth, whether it's, activism. Values are very broad, but you need to know, and you use a number, about 10. You should have about 10 rules for yourself. And then you probably will have 10 preferences. The key is to make sure that you don't confuse a preference for a rule.
Okay.
Having a big butt is a preference. Having to be 6 feet tall is a preference.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that you don't confuse your list of rules versus preferences, but you should have a list of both.
I feel like this shouldn't be as hard for me then, because see, the height is not a requirement for me. It's not a preference.
You hear that, short man? You hear that? You got a chance.
Hold on. I'm not saying that I don't like men who are tall. I'm saying it is not something on my list that is a deal breaker for me, like it is for a lot of women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
However, I'm still in the struggle.
You probably have that, again, some men, or maybe a lot of men, may not have, but just saying, don't ignore that, Michelle. Same thing, Stretch. Don't ignore that you want a butt. Like, just don't ignore that, because that's what you're attracted to. It just means that it just can't be a rule. You don't want to get a woman who has a beautiful face and all of the character and all the values because she ain't got no ass. You want to be careful about that, but you don't want to ignore it.
Okay, I can dig it. I can dig it. Yeah.
Fair.
I like that. Yeah. Plus, you can always go buy ass these days.
These days, of it is like, you can either buy one and actually have it in your body, or the reality of it is, once you get into a space with someone you love them so, I've got a butt in my drawer, so he just needs the visual of the butt. It's like, here you go, it's right here.
That's what's up, man.
She got her man, so she already did whatever, she did what needed to be done. I would like to just comment on the statement I made in the beginning. I'm not suggesting that submission. Oh, sometimes it does make me cringe when I say it, but I'm not suggesting that it is a bad thing. I will say that the type of man that I would be willing to do that for has to come with certain characteristics. That's not for every man. Every man is not deserving of that because he's a man. Right. That's my opinion. But I feel like he demonstrates, leadership qualities. He demonstrates, not because he's beats on his chest and says he's a man and he's an alpha and all these things. He just demonstrates that in the way he carries himself and his aura and his presence. He's selfless, right? He has the vision for the couple or the family in mind, not just for himself. And so, sure, I will happily follow you, sir. But anyway, I digress.
Hey, you go ahead, G.
Submission goes along with vulnerability, so it can be hard again as we get older. Like, I found my man, but again, I still was single longer than I've been in relationship, and again, to boot, a single mother. So finding him at 38, again, I'm 53. All those years before, that's again having to learn to not so much submit in a negative way, but submission and vulnerability do go hand in hand, because you absolutely will not fall in love without the fall. It just won't happen. And the reality,
say it for the people in the back.
You not fall. And unfortunately, for so many of us, men and women, again, as we get a certain age, we are less likely to fall over and be vulnerable and give ourselves to someone, because we're more cautious as we get older. But again, you cannot fall in love without the fall.
Well, ladies, I want to thank y'all again for tonight, man. I've definitely been enlightened. I've learned a lot. And I'm looking forward to going into 2024 with a brand new, with a new scope and a vision, because, I can't go into my 50s still lonely out here in these streets, man, and all that good jazz. But I got a vision now, and I thank y'all for dropping through tonight and then bestowing us with your wisdom and your outlook as well. And for all of those out there who are getting ready for 2024, just be mindful. If you're single, don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? It's all good. 2023 was a good year for you. In other facets of your life, I'm sure. And if the romantical side is something that you want to work on, like G said, maybe it's some things that you need to work on yourself first, and then get on out there and make things happen. But make sure that you put yourself in situations and circumstances that you will find your person, and rather than thinking that person. And you know what, G? That's another thing. I've read another thing, statistic. People got to stop thinking that somebody's gonna come knocking on their door and just gonna show up and be like, ha. You know what I'm saying?
That's what the online helps. So you
Yes.
can't from your house, but you can't stay in a computer. At some point, to Michelle's point, you've got to be ready, and you got to be ready for what you're going to meet. Because sometimes, again, everyone is struggling online with trying to keep up with the image of what people think that. Yeah, you can do a whole lot from your house, but eventually you got to come out.
And then also be mindful too, because of things like those what am I trying to say? The things that trigger your brain from online is a lot of that stuff is a fallacy, man. Because you'll sit up there and just find yourself scrolling, and next thing you know, you lost in the wormhole looking at fake asses and things.
Online shopping. We're all guilty of it. I've got quite a few things in my house that I'm giving away now because I bought them in an impulsive moment. So we can all be guilty of, when we do the online dating, to be careful not to shop. Again, be intentional. That's where those lists can be helpful.
Right.
Have them with you as opposed to just scrolling.
Right. Well, Michelle, I wish you a very happy and fruitful and loving 2024. G, I wish you the same.
We're gonna do this next year. I'm telling you, I can feel it. We're gonna have a different conversation when both of y'all are gonna be saying different things within a year.
Hey man, from your mouth to God's ears.
Exactly. I'm rubbing my finger for good luck.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna rub my finger for good luck. Hey, no doubt. Well, thank y'all, ladies. I appreciate you both. Enjoy your 2024, and we will reconvene. And I really, really appreciate you all for stopping through and doing this with me tonight.
Thank you for having me, and very nice to meet you, G. And I think I'll be reaching out to you.
See, boom, bam, bam. That's what I'm talking about. All right, no doubt, everybody. Thank you for joining in, and thank you for locking in and rocking out with Dope Chats with Stretch. We'll be back next week, but the week after next, you already know how we do every other Tuesday, 8:00 live on Facebook. Now Instagram Live too. I just figured that out, and also YouTube. So thank y'all again for tuning in, and I'll holler at you when I holler at you. Peace.